Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. I'm Razan Jakli. On behalf of Society of Engineers team, I would like to welcome you. Thank you all for joining us today. Society of Engineers have been organizing a series of webinars and courses to help in promoting and developing the engineering society. Our topic for today is strategic management in construction, engineering and construction firm, presented by Dr. Fadi Bayoud. Before we start, I would like to mention that the recording of today's webinar will be available in Society of Engineers YouTube channel. So in case you want to rewatch today's session again, you'll find it in our YouTube channel. Second thing, please note that for today's presentation, we're going to divide the session into two main parts. That is, at first, we're going to have a presentation for approximately 25 minutes. Then we're going to have a 5 minutes break for your questions. Then we're going to continue the presentation and we'll keep the 10 minutes at the end for your questions again. So in case you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A section and we will answer them. Hopefully we'll manage to answer most of them or all. For general inquiries or comments, you can use the chat section and our team will answer you as well. So now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our panelist for today, Dr. Fadi Bayoud. He is the founder and director of Strategic Anchor with a PhD in geomatics engineering and an MBA in strategic management. In addition, he has a certification of construction project management from Columbus University and a certificate of executive development program from INSEAD. So Dr. Fadi, thank you for joining us. We're really happy to have you over. I know everyone is interested to know about the strategy management in the engineering field and what are the best strategies to adopt during these circumstances and post-COVID-19. So without any delay, I'll let you jump into your presentation and I will let you handle now the presentation and everything, and I will rejoin you for the questions, for the Q&A. So thank you again.
Thank you, Razan, for introduction. Good evening, everybody. And thanks to the Society of Engineers in UAE for hosting me. It's a real pleasure for me. I will start with the presentation. Just let me share the screen, please. And yes, 1 second, because it is a bit okay. Okay. Okay, now I think it's working. Okay, very good. Hi again. So thank you, Razan. Today we are presenting strategic management in engineering and construction. We are trying to find how strategic planning can create value in the industry. Okay, the presentation will cover a few points. First of all, we'll talk about the different two ecosystems in the engineering and construction. One is the corporate, the business, and the other is a project. We will briefly discuss how each is managed, and then we try to simplify the concept of strategic business management, because some people are afraid when they say when the term strategic management or when the term strategy is brought in. We'll take a break, as Mrs. Razan said, because there will be lots of information. So we need to take a break to get to your questions, and then we'll continue. Here we will have a sample of how few companies in UAE strategically manage their companies. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have a longer part in this for this item, but because we have so much information, we will briefly present there, and then we jump into how companies can behave during and post-COVID in the near term, and then later on the long term, how companies can navigate with the disruption on the long term from 5 to 10 years. Although Razan mentioned what I've done, who I am, but this is a summary of what I've done in my last 15 years in the construction and engineering. For the last, since 2013, I was involved in one of the mega projects in the region, one of the biggest projects in the region, which is Riyadh Metro Project. And since 2017, I established my company Strategic Anchors. So what is Strategic Anchors? It is an advisory boutique that delivers technical, commercial, and management expertise for a business concept that helps and encourages engineering and construction firms to embark on the transformation journey. We are all now trying to transform ourselves, our businesses, our models, our industry. So this is what I try to help. How to do it? Simply by providing 4 solutions. One is the business strategy and foresight, helping firms to know their core competencies and find a future for their firm. Second, in project management, we try to help companies into adopting a tailored project management that fits their culture, but of course fits their projects. Digital transformation, simply how to build technology-based sustainable competitive advantage. And the last one is how to reach operational excellence. This is the briefing. Now we start with the presentation. One important thing before we start is that one of the key elements of strategic planning is asking the right questions. It's very dangerous when someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, I have a strategy for you. You need to do this, this, and that. Be skeptic, be careful, because this is not the right way of starting or doing strategy. Strategy without asking the right questions will not be tailored or fit for purpose strategy to your needs. We're talking about your needs, your industry, your culture, your company, your people, your projects, your activities. So it has to be tailored to you. So in order to do that, we have to ask questions. So we are in engineering and construction firms. Before jumping into what ecosystems we have, briefly, we have to mention the problems, the challenges that this firm is facing. Many reports have been issued, many studies have been done, many publications have been written on the problems and challenges in the construction and engineering. Here I just write around 8 ones that I think that these are the most important challenges that now we are facing. The first one is the technology adoption, right? Which is something that we are all now embarking on, especially after COVID-19, which accelerates the adoption of technology. A second one that is very important from my view is the misalignment between the major stakeholders. Okay, this is a very important thing that we need to take care of. The third thing, the third thing is the poor project management and execution. Although we know that all of us are doing projects and thus we are project managers, however, the way we are doing project management does not fit the complexity of the industry, plus other challenges that we can read here, which is lack of cash, low margin, low number of bids, and unreliable subcontractors. We all know these challenges that we are facing in every day. Now, what is the solution? It's a complex situation by all means that requires a new mindset to solve problems. Although this might look as a simple equation, but definitely it's not simplistic. What do we want eventually to do? If you go and ask CEOs, if you go and ask project managers, what do they want to do? They want to increase productivity and at the same time improve performance. They want to increase the customer base and the customer satisfaction. And they want to increase the technology adoption. At the same time, they want to lower their costs, to decrease the number of staff. And very important thing is remove waste and mistakes, because the industry is full of waste, be it time or money or efforts. We have to also reduce number of waste. A combination, of course, it's the best thing is to have all these 6 elements together, but we can have a combination that can eventually lead us to have a less overhead, lower cost on the client and the end user, more competitiveness, we have more projects, and the low cash flow becomes less hurting. So how to do that? Firms require strategic solutions to handle this complexity. Strategic solutions, not only in projects, but in the corporate. But we know that engineering and construction firms are project-based organizations. So the value creation vehicle of engineering and construction are the projects. Okay, so we have to deal with projects, with the life cycle of the project, with everything that concerns the project. And when we talk about project, it's not only the execution part of the project, it is before the bid. What companies do before embarking on putting up a bid, all the way to after commissioning, which also includes the client, to manage the client relationship. Now, as we said, the vehicle, the project is the vehicle that creates value. However, the project belongs to a different ecosystem. Now we have the project, but also we have the project ecosystem, the corporate ecosystem. So if we look at the holistic view of the organization, we have the corporate-based ecosystem, which is where the management sits, not the project management, the actual management of the company sits. That consists, and this ecosystem consists of many systems or subsystems. We have the internal systems of the company, we have the supply chain relationship, we have partnering arrangements, external environment, and client management. All these things have to be managed. At the same time, we have projects that we mentioned before. So what we do usually is, what we should be doing is to have this always live interaction between the project-based ecosystem and the corporate-based ecosystem. So this is the holistic view of how engineering and construction firms work. So how each of these ecosystem is managed, we already mentioned that the projects are managed by project management. Now, this by itself requires many webinars to tackle. We will not go into this, but hopefully in the future we can have a detailed webinar about how we see and how we think projects need to be managed. We will jump into the corporate. So this is the corporate-based ecosystem that we will talk about today. So before jumping into what we need to do, I would like to present you here the difference between corporate and business. Usually in big companies, in mega international companies, we have the corporate and the businesses underneath them. What is the corporate? The corporate usually decides which businesses, products, markets, geographies to pursue or diversify in. Now, below that, we have the businesses. Here I choose to have 5 businesses. I chose to have, for example, one in MEP, one capital infrastructure, one commercial building, residential building, and oil and gas. Of course, other companies can have different businesses, okay? So business categories differ from firm to firm. Each of these have different challenges and require different set of skills and resources. Each has different clients and stakeholders, and thus making the business a complex and challenging endeavor for the corporate. That's why this enforces what I said before, that that project management has to be tailored to each of those businesses, because a project in MEP requires different project management tools, framework systems than oil and gas. But this goes beyond our presentation today. So how to manage the corporate and the businesses apart from managing the project? By strategic management. It is a complex system. The corporate and the business are complex systems to manage, and we usually manage it by, not usually, definitely, but mostly always we manage it by strategic management. So what is strategic management? And how to simplify to make it less mysterious. Whenever someone mentions strategy, based on my experience and my interviews with many people, so strategy remains a mystery. Few people know what strategy is, and many times strategy means different things to different people. Okay, but how to simplify it, okay, without going into the academic definition of strategy, because there are so many definitions in strategy in the academic books. Okay, simply how we can simply define it. We are in this location in one place, and we want to go to the other hill, okay, where our target is. before going and start moving, we need to know who we are. Who we are, what resources we have, what systems we have, what settings we have, what logistics, what monitoring, what control systems we have, who are our people, who is leading it, and of course there is a question mark, things that we don't know that we need. Okay, so this is where we start by knowing who we are and what resources we have. Okay, and where we are on this specific hill. Okay, then we need to go there, we need to pass through this valley or this landscape. And this landscape is full of surprises, full of unknowns, full of knowns as well. We can have clear sky, we can have bad weathers, we can have fires, forests. We can, just imagine that you are moving through a rough landscape and you want to go up to that other hill. So strategy is knowing where you are, knowing who you are, knowing on which hill you are, the surroundings of the hill, knowing the path, okay, and moving through unknowns as well. So it's not a mystery. We can put it simply, but not simplistic, of course, in this very in this way. So in order to do strategy, we need to do what we call strategic management. We have to have a strategic management process. Okay, I took this from the book called Corporate Entrepreneurship. So what we need to do, first of all, we have to have a vision. What is our vision? What do we need to do? And this vision is usually fed by the core values and beliefs either of the owner or owners or the major stakeholders. Once we define the vision, we start doing what we call strategic analysis that we will cover in this presentation. After that, we have strategic options. Identify and evaluate strategic options, and then we start the strategy formulation and then implementation. As you see here, there are arrows coming back and forth from all of these items. This means that sometimes you are doing strategy formulation, okay, but you find that you need to change some part of the vision. So you go and change the vision. But look at the core values and beliefs. It's one arrow. So your core values and beliefs must not change except if they are proven profoundly wrong. But everything changed except your core values and beliefs and principles. So for this presentation, we'll cover the strategic analysis and strategic options. Now, this model here is usually done for classical market, for products that we buy every day. But now in the construction and engineering industry, we have certain specificities, challenges due to these specificities. So these specificities can be the challenges that we mentioned at the beginning, plus the market, the engineering and construction market is very much reactive to macroeconomy and reactive to force majeure, for example, COVID, okay? And also there is no product to market. Although in the future, there might be some products that you might turn engineering and construction into a manufacturing, it's something similar to the manufacturing industry, okay, where we have products and we sell to the developers. But now there is no product to market. We provide services. So these two challenges and the other challenges make the strategic making process of engineering and construction a bit challenging. There are many schools, as we said, in engineering and construction. For example, if we go and talk about Münster, he has 9 schools of strategy, and depending on which school they do the analysis. But here, because here we need to have, because of the nature of engineering and construction, there are 2 schools or 2 views of strategy that fits the engineering and construction. The first one is industrial organization, which means that how we can ensure a fit between what we have and the market. And other way around, if we want to enter the market, how we can define our fit. The other one is the resource-based static and dynamic view. We know that the engineering construction is heavy in resources. Mainly people talk about static resources, but we also need to talk about dynamic, that we'll see later. So these are the 2 main schools or strategy approaches that engineering and construction follow, the industrial and the resource-based. But before that, before embarking on either or a combination of these two, we have to know where we are. Remember when we said about strategy, you need to know where we are, the environment around us. This is the environment, and usually look at the political, economic, technological, sociocultural, these are the things that you read here. We need to see where we are. For example, you are at the UAE. What is the environment of the UAE? And the UAE is part of the GCC. What is the environment of the GCC? How can the environment, I'm not talking about climate environment, about business environment, social environment. How can this affect our operations, about projects and about our operations, our clients, so where we are. And then we go into the industrial that we'll cover later and about the internal things, okay? Now, this is the classical way of doing environmental scanning. A step further, okay, we can do emerging trends, emerging issues and trends. And this is part of foresight, a strategic foresight approach. So what we do, we look at what emerging issues there are and what trends we can expect to have. For example, if you look at this image, it's done by the Global Infrastructure Hub. Here they have found different emerging issues and trends that the engineering industry, construction and engineering industry need to look at when they start strategizing. Okay, so now this is we are studying the environment. We know where we are. Of course, we don't know everything, but we did a good exercise and we know where we are. Next step is to look at the industry, right? We said we have the environment, and then we industry, and then we go and look we look into the internal resources of the company. Now the industry, here we use the Porter's 5 forces from the famous Michael Porter. Okay? What are these 5 forces say? It tells us that if we are in an industry, for example, engineering and construction, what are the forces that play in the industry that affect us and we affect? These 5 forces are the suppliers. We know that, it's very clear. Who are the suppliers? What is their bargaining power? On the other hand, we have the buyers, our clients, our developers. Also, what's the bargaining power of the buyers? Also, we have, if you go up in the potential entrants, who are the new entrants? Is there a threat of new entrants? For example, another company comes to UAE with lots of money and they just start taking projects. We have the industry competitors, the existing companies within the industry. Okay, how we can compete with them, and at the end we look at substitutes. Substitutes here is a bit tough to find in engineering and construction because we need to build, we need to construct. How can we substitute a building? Okay, what we can face difficulty in is a potential entrance from those companies that look at engineering and construction from a different view, which is different than our classical view of brick and mortar. For example, Katera, I think, yes, I think it's called Katera, yeah. So these technology-based construction companies are potential, actually they are already here, and they are threatening the existing incumbents of the market. So these are the 5 forces that we need to analyze, all of these forces. Next thing we do is to know our position. What do we need to be? We want to be a differentiator of quality, or a cost leader, or both. So if quickly in these images, if you go to the right-hand side, where this is what we need to arrive at. We want to have a lower cost than our competitor, and we want to sell at a lower rate to our client. What we end up pleasing the client, we end up having less cost, and we end up having more profit. And this is, of course, the best case scenario. But definitely, this is not easy to do by all means. But this is what we need to eventually strive and aim at. Because the other ones, more or less, they will be you are doing the same thing as your competitor. At one time, either you or your competitor will just exit the market because you cannot sustain the loss or the difficulty there. Okay, so now in order to do that, to lower our cost and increase our profit, at the same time sell cheaper to our client, we have to look at our value chain. What is the value chain? Is what processes we have inside our company. So what we do there, we take each of those and we analyze them. In the red one, okay, we have these are the supporting activities of the main activity, which is project management. The project management is the main activity that we do in engineering and construction, and we have those supporting activities. So in order to know how we reduce the cost and increase the profit, we have to analyze our value chain. So now we have done the industry analysis and the company analysis. We jump into the resources. Now, in order to do all that I mentioned, we have to have resources. We have to have competences and assets. And this is a list of competences and assets that every company can and might have, okay? In resources as well, we have tangible and intangible resources. For example, labor, these are tangible. The intangible is the culture, the knowledge, the reputation, the intellectual property, the copyrights. These are very valuable for companies. So we have to look at our competences and assets and analyze them. Out of these, we always have to take care of what we call VRIO asset or VRIO competency or VRIO capability. What is a VRIO asset capability or competency? Is it valuable? If it's valuable, if it's not valuable, then this asset doesn't give us any competitive advantage. Actually, on the opposite, gives us competitive disadvantage. Now, we jump, is it rare? If it's rare, then we are fine. We jump into whether we check whether it is imitated or not. For example, if you have a valuable and rare asset, but if it cannot be imitated now, you have a temporary competitive advantage. But in time, it will definitely be imitated. Okay, so if it can be imitated, okay, we check if it is if the firm can use it to capture value, because you can have an asset, you can have a competency, but you cannot actually use it to create value. So if your answer is always yes to these four questions, then this asset or competency or capability provides you sustainable competitive advantage. We call it VRIO or VRIN. However, again, it takes some time for your competitors to imitate all these things, to have also the same asset and have also sustained competitive advantage. So what do you do about it? You have to always have a dynamic set of activities, or you take your resources and you put them in a dynamic process by which you can have an ongoing capacity to modify your existing resources and capabilities or create new ones to adapt to change. So it's not only enough to have your resources, but you have to have a dynamic capability to transform, to create new ones, or to modify existing to always to have the VRIN. So this is about the resources, about the industry, about the environment. Now you've done the strategy. It's good. You've done the strategy. You did the plan, and you start moving with it. Eventually, after 1 year, you find that your plan was not all realized, or only part of it gets realized. And this actually what discourages CEOs. I've talked with many CEOs and they say, well, we don't do strategy because it will change. Of course it will change. No strategy, no matter how perfect it is, and actually, of course, there's no perfect strategy. No matter how good the strategy is, no matter how perfect it fits your needs, there are so many unknowns. Remember, and when we said going down the valley and going up, there were so many unknowns, question marks. These unknowns will change the environment you are working in. So what happens that you have the plan strategy, part of it will not be realized because of many reasons, internal reasons and external reasons. But also, what we have as well, we have other things coming into the game. what we call emergent strategy. The combination of the part of the plan and part of the emergent is what we get as realized. And it can be not even 90% different than the plan. But there's not a problem because, you know, as Eisenhower said, plan is nothing. Planning is everything. So this is the important thing, that the strategic planning is what makes the company or the people in the company ready to accept the emergent strategies and eventually come out of it with less harm. Okay, so in order to do that, we usually use the dynamic resources that allow us to take the emergent strategies and embed them with our operation or with what's left of our plan strategy to get the realized strategy. I cannot stress enough. If I wish to repeat 10 times, I wouldn't mind that we don't do strategy because we won't realize it, all of it. Strategy, making strategy is part, or we can make it as part of our learning journey towards having value and success. Now, by this, I finished the first part of the presentation, and I will be happy to take questions from you. I will have a break as well for 5 minutes to take questions, and we can continue with the rest of the presentation. Ms. Razan?
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much for the first part of the session. I don't know if you want to drink water or something to refresh a bit, relax. Thank you, because you know the presentation and everything. Well, there's a question that says that, as you said, that the strategic plan should be flexible and accommodates all of the emerging, forces that could happen. So what's the time frame that a strategic plan should have? Like, what is the perfect, or let's say appropriate time frame to develop a strategic plan?
Okay. Usually the trend that is happening right now, that we do strategy for 3 years. Okay, and then we revisit every year. So if you go and ask some CEOs, they will tell you that if they keep a strategy for 3 years without adapting it, the first year you might get what, 89, if in the best case scenario, you can get from 70 to 80% of it, right? Now, if you leave it without modifying in the second year, in the second year, you may get 40%. In the third year, you get less than 20% out of it. So that's why we do 3 years plan usually, but every year we sit and redo, see what has worked, what hasn't worked, and what new environment we have, and then we do for the next 3 years.
Okay. So I think, for example, due to COVID-19, a lot of the strategies of the companies have to be, you either adapt or change. We need to change our strategy and adapt to the new form, to the new norm of COVID-19 with the transformation to digitalization. So such changes that happen suddenly, how can a company actually accommodate all of these changes while keeping its core value and vision? Like, do you have,
Of course. This is challenging. These are challenging times by all means, and we will discuss it later in the second section after the break. We'll discuss these. But of course, now we are living in an environment, or in what we call VUCA, even more than VUCA. It is a rough environment, especially with COVID-19, and this makes the best strategies fail, not because they are. Because the environment changed. As we said before, when you do strategy, you do it for the environment and you look a part ahead. But when the environment, all the environment changes, your strategy becomes obsolete. You cannot do it. What you can do there, we'll talk about it later, is that you can build a capacity in your company for flexibility and for adaptability. Okay, if you have in your company, if your team, depending how big your company is, but if you create a sense of learning, of adaptability, of flexibility within your team, the impact of the force majeure, impact of external unknowns will be less from other companies who are rigid. That's why dynamic capabilities help you in navigating these disruptions. Not totally, but at least it will provide you a better edge than those who don't have any dynamic capabilities.
So I think Mr. Abdulrahman will answer more further about the COVID-19 impacts on the strategic planning at the end. So if you have any more questions, you can keep the question at the end once he covers it through his presentation. And is that, okay, we have an anonymous, is it possible that COVID-19 have taught strategists something? Perhaps now we can simulate scenarios and prepare from now on.
Yeah, we'll talk about scenarios. We will talk about scenarios, yeah.
Yeah, so also we'll talk about the scenarios and how the strategists should think of future foresight now. So I think let's continue, because I think all of our attendees are actually really excited to go through the to continue the presentation.
Yeah, so just want to give me please 1 second, because I need to bring a document into.
Okay, into view. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And just a reminder for you all that a recording would be available of today's presentation on Society of Engineers YouTube channel that you can be watch again. And if you have any questions, just type them in the Q&A section and we will be happy to answer them. And thank you all for joining us. And we'll wait for Dr. Fadi we'll continue now the second part of the presentation. And then we'll
if you please give me 2 minutes and I will be there.
Yeah,
less than 2 seconds and I will be there.
Take your time. Thank you. Yes, we can. We can.
Okay, it's a bit slow. Okay. Okay, now, okay. Now we will talk about the survey, the study that I've done in the UAE as part of my MBA thesis at University of Strathclyde. What I did, I went and contacted several UAE engineering and construction companies, and I sat with the CEOs of those companies. From this table, you can see quickly the companies, or some characteristics of the companies that I have interviewed their CEOs. Okay. What I did, I asked them a set of questions, and when I went with them, we recorded the session, and the session was based on semi-structured interviews, where I would ask, and they would, it was some kind of a discussion rather than an interview. So from those recordings, I analyzed the data, I analyzed the words, these phrases, the discussion, and eventually I came up with these themes, what we call in qualitative research themes. Now, those themes are the points, let's call them points, or these are the things that CEOs think and do when they make strategies, okay? So whenever a CEO, the CEOs that I interviewed, okay, whenever they think about strategy making, they think about these themes: vision, mission, and values, the industry, as we mentioned, the objectives of the company, the strategy itself, the culture, the management team, and the people, and the technology enablers. So not all of them, not all of the CEOs were talking about everything, but this is more or less a holistic view of what all of them have discussed with me. Okay. Now, although I wish I could have a longer discussion around these, but this is by itself, in order to give enough information about it, we'll have to have another webinar. But I'll try as much as possible to summarize what I found. And if you'd like to visit also the article in Construction Week, where I also talked about these things. So in brief, if I may talk about the findings. Okay. Okay. So whenever they think about strategy, they have to think about the vision, mission, and values. In the mission, vision, and values, they always say that, some of them say that the vision, mission, and values, they have to be clear enough for everybody to understand. They have to be set in such a way that is understandable, communicated, and it has to have the employees' alignment and understanding. So this is about the vision, mission. As for the management and people, they take care that they think about how what people needs are, what training they need to have, what's the culture inside the organization, how they can improve the management team and the people, what's the internal environment, is it capable of learning, what are the managers' attitudes towards the people and the culture. In terms of the UAE engineering and construction industry, here we have many categories of inside these things. One of the most important amongst all these things is how the three major stakeholders of the engineering and construction are behaving for this industry. Okay, if I may here adjust, yeah. So just 1 second, please, just to have this. Yeah. So yeah, an important issue that was common across all studied firms, that there is a relationship between the major stakeholders. Who are the major stakeholders? These are the client, contractor, and the consultant. Okay, where trust is actually a big issue there. They all agree that once trust is established and accountabilities are set, other aspects of the industry can be dealt with, apart, of course, from the geopolitical environment that is beyond any player. In addition to that, it was found that apart from money, if we go and talk about the resource that you need for the strategy, apart from money, the findings of the research and into the interviews with the CEOs included that the most important resource that a management can have to lead a firm successfully is its senior management skills. Those guys, the management actually needs to be a VRIO, as remember, VRIO resource, which is without which they cannot manage, because those are the guys who run the show. So if a firm does not have this resource, the firm cannot be properly managed and cannot have a proper strategy. In addition to that, it was found that every EC firm need to have a dynamic strategic planning process that aligns its dynamic resources with the market demands. The process must start by having the right and good management that sets and drives the alignment. Okay, so something here that is it might be a bit controversial, and excuse me for that. So the interviews have found that although the CXOs that I've interviewed are all Western educated, okay, those who are running an Eastern culture firm, like local culture GCC, local culture firm, they have more obstacles in navigating through disruption because of the culture of the company. And it was apparent that their internal systems were not supported by a proper strategic management process. Decisions were reactive, and their strategies are based on budgetary objectives rather than holistic needs of the firm. Because I had interviewed 7 firms, this claim needs to be further studied by interviewing and studying other firms with a larger number of interviews. So this is what I found here, but I cannot say that this is a fact because we need to interview other firms. So also all the firms face the same environmental challenges, but the prowess of the firm's senior executives in channeling efforts, money, emotions, and time to those aspects that they can control plays an important role towards mitigating risks. Because if you sit and think about things that you cannot control, you will stay where you are. So no, go and try to solve problems or things that you can control rather than going and try to fix things that you cannot control. So more or less, in a nutshell, these were the findings of the study. Of course, this is just a very brief way of putting it, and of course, it does not give it its value. We need to have other webinar to in details discuss this item here. And apologies for not being able to discuss it further, but the article that I mentioned here explains it in a bit with more details. So how to further enhance our knowledge about the UAE engineering and construction market? Okay, by conducting more interviews to have a deeper understanding of the problems so that suitable solutions can be investigated. Now, we go to where many people are waiting for, which is strategic management during and post short-term COVID-19. Okay. Again, as I said at the beginning, I'm not here to provide you with solutions because I don't know your companies. I don't know your culture. I don't know what projects you're involved in. I don't know your clients. I don't know the history of the company. So please don't expect from anybody to provide the solutions without asking you questions. If this happens, please be skeptic. Now, what I will show you right now is a set of strategies and tactics that might fit your company during these times. Where I got these strategies and tactics from the following publications and from my experience and discussion with different people. So these strategies I grouped into clusters. Okay, some of them are common between clusters. These are generic and not new. Okay, and can be applied and tested in business world and has been tested and applied in business world for years. If you go into details into these tactics and strategies, but we cannot do right now, hopefully you can do it later in the recorded video, okay? You might find that some of them contradict each other, okay? And it's not a mistake, but rather confirms the important rule that off-the-shelf strategies and tactics must not be adopted without knowing who we are and what needs to be done. And know who we are is part of it is what is our culture. And as you know from Peter Drucker, who said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. On top of that, any adopted strategy or tactic, especially if it is generic, must be aligned to your firm, as you said, culture and its strengths. Okay, so knowledge of who we are and what needs to be done can be obtained through answering a set of questions with a strategy facilitator or advisor, all within your strategic management department, if you have a strategy officer. Okay, so again, whatever you will see here is not that you have to apply it. No, it's just ideas that you need to see if it fits your company. Okay, and as you said, they are made of clusters with the first cluster is business strategy. Here we have different tactics or strategies that might fit your company. For example, when we say about offer different product or service, provide high quality outputs, provide innovative services, offer comprehensive service to clients. These are a set of strategies for the labeled as business strategies. Other set are focused strategies. Okay, what geographies you need to serve, what construction market you need to serve, what clients you need to serve. Okay, these are focused strategies. Okay, then you need to investigate. Contracting related actions. these are also some ideas that you need to investigate to see if it fits your company. Okay, for example, when we say diversify into other construction related businesses, if you might want to say, okay, well, MEP is a very hot topic now, and a few companies are good enough to handle big MEP projects. Let's go and venture in it. But wait, are you ready for it? Do you have the resources? Do you have the right clients? Do you have the processes? There are so many things that we will see the questions later. Okay, cost management strategies. Lay off employees, freeze staff recruitment, reconfigure your value chain, cut suppliers' prices, invest in technologies. There are also many strategies that again, you need to see how it fits your company. Financially related strategies, the same thing, okay? Maybe you need to do strategic alliances with banks, with financiers, so on and so forth. HR personnel strategies. Some of them will tell you fire people, some of them will tell you train people, some of them will tell you go and hire good people. So again, it depends what your company is. Operational project management, how to better do operations and project management, what you can do there. In addition to other things, of course, that we mentioned before. Market intelligence strategies, how you can do that and get more projects and more strategies, more partnerships in your company. Networking, the same thing. What kind of networking you can do to have to scale up and to have more projects and more partnerships. Swiftness and adaptability. Adaptability is a very important thing, and this is what we mentioned before. Build an adaptable organizational structure. For me, this is one of the most important things. Do innovative products. Establish organizational structure based on adaptability mechanism. This for me is a very important thing, because if your strategy fails, or if something that happens that is a force majeure is beyond your control, if you have adaptability strategies there, you will come out of this problem with less loss. Now, how to know which of the above strategies, tactics to use? Again, ask questions. And here I have a set of questions that, like hundreds of dozens of questions that we have here that tells you what to use. And these questions are in those categories. First of all, we need to see your mission, your vision, what are your scope of projects, what are your objectives, what is your business environment, the new one, of course, or the one that will come. And then you have to check your resources. Construction resources, procurement resources, marketing, organizational structure, personnel, finances, knowledge. You see that all those are related to those tactics. So the questions that we ask here are very much related to the ideas of tactic strategies that we mentioned previously. Okay, so this is what I can give you in terms of current COVID and post-COVID for a short term. If I tell you use this or use that, you better be skeptic and don't listen to me. But if I tell you, ask your questions, know who you are, see what you can use of these ideas, then you will be on the right track. Now, we said that post-COVID-19, but what about 5 to 10 years from now, considering that we are living in a VUCA world? We are living in volatile world, uncertain world, a complex world, an ambiguous world, okay? I'm sure that many of you know the VUCA world becomes very, very famous now these days. So we're living in this VUCA world, okay? Navigating the future or looking at the future cannot happen using yesterday method, okay? For example, if you look at the image of those, the graph where they have projections. So previously, usually before, we would go and forecast the projection of our sales, of profits, or whatever it is. But we know that those projections most of the time fail because they're not based on the future, they're based on the past. And also the way we currently look at businesses, as you see from these comics, doesn't fit the ambiguity, the complexity, the vulnerability that we're living in right now. Okay, for example, if you look at the Uncle Sam here, when he says that, can you tell me about the future? And then the oracle says, well, I would, but I cannot read Chinese. This, for example, was valid a year ago, but is it valid right now? If you go and read some trends and some emerging issues about China, they will, some people say that China might not be the monster or the that people are saying it is. So we are now in fog. We don't know what will happen. Okay. So although the future lies ahead of us, we in business were still using the rear view mirror as our reference, and this is very dangerous. So how to do it? Excuse me for that. Again, asking questions. We are in a rough period of transition ahead of us. So what we can do, we have the macroeconomy, unknown, geopolitics, climate, global health, and we have the technologies that are present right now. These are present right now, but we don't know how they will evolve. So in order to know how we can use and how we can adapt our company, we have to ask these questions. For example, how will they affect your organization? Okay? Can you anticipate where the greatest changes and challenges your organization would like to happen during the next 1 to 2 years? Can you develop alternative strategies? And this is where scenario comes in. Have you developed alternative strategies? Is your organization, can it learn fast? Can it move fast? Can it respond fast? Okay? So these are questions that also need to ask to see how we can navigate. For beyond that 1 to 2 years, 5, 10 years, these are the trends that I mentioned before from the Global Hub, okay? Also, what opportunities they will create to your organization, but not only to your organization, to you as a person. What opportunities will they create for you as a human being, as a person, as an employee? Are the generation differences going to affect your organization? For example, the CEO is 56 years old and his team is 25, 30 years old. Well, what will happen there? How can we attract these people and to deliver value in a way that they feel is fit? We cannot dictate our methods to them. We can guide them, we can teach them, we can monitor them, but they have their methods. Okay, look for the future that has already happened. The future in some time already happened. For example, smart cities, smart infrastructure. Although it doesn't exist right now, but it's a future that has already happened. Okay, how can we guide our business to do that? How to do that? By foresight and scenario planning. This is a graph where we have 3-dimensional graph. Okay, if we talk about admin work, operations, we are within 1 year, for example, and few people are affected. Time horizon is 1 year and scope of effort is little. Now, if we go to the 2-3 years where we do strategies, we are talking about strategy. Beyond that, we do foresight. Okay, what is foresight? It is looking at the future, looking at different futures. Okay, we look at the projected future that we do it usually. We still use projected future, but we don't take it as the future or the only thing that we can look at. It's, although you might say it is the default, but no, we have probable future, we have plausible future, we have possible future, and we have preferable future that span across all these futures. So whenever we want to look at the future, we have to draw images of the future. We say, what is the possible future? And then we start drawing images of the possible future, okay? So, or the preferable future. To be prepared for the unknown future, as we said, we cannot use the old way of doing strategy, where we start from the past, we do pestle SWOT analysis, and we strategize for the near future. Now, we have to look at 5, 10 years from now and think with the end in mind. In 5, 10 years, where will we be? And how this happens? By different tools, different frameworks that we use. But if just to summarize it, we think where we want to be, and we use scenarios. These scenarios are fed by our values and reasons of existence. Remember when I mentioned about the strategy process where we have values that feeds vision? Well, those also feed our scenarios, okay? We take past historical events and successes as not the guiding point, as something to learn from, but we don't start from there. We start at the end, okay? And we start backcasting and simulation for how the future, if we have these images of the future, if we go back, what we need to do to arrive in those future. And we build scenarios. There are many ways of building scenarios, but those 4 scenarios are the way that Foresight looks at organizational scenarios. Organizational scenarios, how companies need to look at the future to find, to have images of the future. Those 4 scenarios are business as usual. What if the current business model of engineering and construction continues as is, with low productivity, bad performance, the client, contractor, consultant are still having high problems to align, we have low bids, the challenges that we mentioned before, they continue as they are. This is called business as usual. What will happen in 30 years if this will happen? Companies will break down, other entrants will come in, the entire landscape will different scenarios, different images we have to have. We can look at the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario can come from many places, but those places are, we take the trends and emerging issues as our guiding point for worst case scenarios. For example, climate change. What if in 10 years, the climate change in a very bad way, okay? Or if there is a war in a region or the other, or if you can imagine anything and put worst scenarios and see how your company yourself can behave. Or the best case scenario. And of course, this is self-explanatory. What is your best case scenario as a company? Of course, all companies have best case scenarios. They put in 2030 want to be that thing. So in order to be that thing based on the trends and emerging issues, what do you need to do now to be in the best case in 2030, or an outlier? An outlier is something that comes out of the blue. What is it that might come out of the blue, and how will we behave if this happens? To all these scenarios, you need to put strategies, okay? To be prepared. Again, adaptability. This foresight exercise will help you and your team and your company to widen your horizon, to look at different things, to think differently, to see other perspectives, okay? And to be ready for the unknown. Of course, it's called unknown. They don't know what it is, but it will assist you in being ready for anything, not anything, for things that can hit you along your journey. By this, I finished the presentation. I hope you like it. I know that there's tons of information about it, and the UAE case studies was not detailed enough. Sorry about that, but I hope that in the future we'll have a webinar that is dedicated specifically for the UAE case studies. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Fadi, for this informative presentation. We're having, it's 6, but we'll just give time because we are receiving questions. So we'll just go through the questions quickly, and hopefully we can answer all of you, or at least most of you. So, okay, for the first question, we have a question from Mr. Nadeem. He says, what type of strategy would you support or advise for smaller construction companies, especially under COVID-19?
Mm-hmm. Again, sorry to say it again, it depends. Whenever someone asks you about strategy, they would say it depends. And then when we say small, okay, in the UAE SMEs framework, small is a company small and medium-sized company that has revenue from 50 to 300, 400 million dirhams revenue, okay? It depends, is it 50 or 400, okay? This question I cannot say, but what I can suggest that although the CEOs might not like that, but start investing in technologies by all means. It's technology, okay?
Yeah.
and you have to select those technologies that fit your projects. Okay, for example, someone might tell you, okay, use BIM. Well, wait, if I use BIM, what value would bring me? Or maybe I just go and subcontract the BIM to a BIM office, okay? So these questions, although I would love to answer them, okay, but I cannot because I need to know what company it is. But I suggest to Nabil to go through these questions that I have there, okay, and do the analysis himself, okay, to see what fits his company, okay. But in general, of course, learning and adapting is something that all companies need to do, and start investing with small technologies that don't uh, don't um, don't require lots of investment from you. And now with COVID, maybe many people in your company are, I'll not say idle, but they are not don't have much work than before. So invest in them, teach them, and go and look for those technologies that don't require too much investment from you, and start using them. And yeah, there are so many softwares in lean construction that can help in that one.
Okay, thank you for the tip. I mean, technology, yeah, we know that technology is the future. So any person who is thinking of any strategy, digitalization is the new way to go ahead. So thank you for the tip. Okay, we have another question from Brian. He says that we know that most of the construction firms are affected due to the crisis of COVID-19. What would be the good strategy to manage the current resources in such a pandemic situation where we're not able to use them 100% for the project? So they have resources, but they cannot use them 100% for the project. So what are the best strategies for them to utilize these resources without affecting the quality, time, and cost of the project? So they have resources, they cannot use 100% of the resources available, but they don't want to affect the time, the quality, and the cost of their project.
Invest their times in learning. This is what I can tell you. Teach them. Let them get, now the internet is full of free webinars, technical and business webinars. You can go to Udemy, for example. You have many courses that are cheap. If you don't want to lay them off, give them the chance to learn, because learning now will help you in the future, definitely when the situation comes clear and more projects are coming in. The only thing I can tell without having the possibility to analyze your project or your company, tell your people to learn. And if you want to I'm very happy to spend a couple of hours with you on the phone to tell me your project, and I will try to assist you free of charge. Don't worry about it. But with the current question, I simply, sorry, I wish I could help more than telling you put them into learning.
Thank you for your kind, gesture of having a free of charge opinion. So we have another question from Mr. Abu Bakr. I think this question is more of an opinion, like what are your opinions, because there's no straight answer to it. But I think I'm just going to ask you if you have any insights, because this is a question that everyone currently is thinking about. He says that currently a lot of companies have been cutting down their headcounts and salaries due to the COVID-19. So as a strategy, like what are your insights, or what is your thoughts of how companies are using this strategy of actually let go of people or reducing their salaries? And is this like a temporary strategy that the companies are using, or and that after COVID-19 there will be other strategies that they would adopt?
Well, of course, I cannot talk on behalf of companies, because those companies who decided to have to reduce their staff on their salaries, they have their own reasons to do that. And I know that it happened with many companies in the UN, not only worldwide. Okay, and this what Abu Bakr is saying is part of the strategies that I mentioned that people can look into when they have such a problem. Lay off people, cut salaries, unpaid leaves, paid, to take the leaves that already have. These are strategies that we already mentioned in the presentation. Now, after COVID-19, of course, we all hope that it will come. And I believe that those companies that have a good culture, they have good human values, of course, the salaries will come back to normal once the situation normalizes, if we can say normalizes, because normal is a big question. So yes, I believe this will be corrected again, taking into account that the engineering and construction market will come back to where it was. But I don't think it will come where it was, because now with the technology, now with the COVID-19, the technology adoption has been accelerated. Okay, and we know that now, at least now, we don't know what happens in 5-10 years. Now, when we adopt technologies, unfortunately, some people will have to be laid off. Okay, so maybe yes, once a company adopts technology right now, they might get rid of people. But what happens in the future, we don't know. Okay, again, yes, these are strategies that are happening right now. Okay, across the board. And yes, hopefully in the future, when projects will come back again, people will gain back their normal life.
Hopefully, as you said, hopefully everything will go back and better than what it used to be. And we hope everyone the best, especially the people who are affected directly by COVID-19.
And I'm a believer in technologies. You know what, when the computer came in the construction industry, many people temporarily lost their jobs, because okay, what a human could do, you know, the paperwork and the filing and these things, with the computer, things become easier. For example, when we had, in like 30 years ago, when we had, you know, dozens of engineers to draw by hand and design on these big boards, when AutoCAD came in, many architects and engineers were laid off, right? But later now, for example, with BIM is hiring more people. BIM is hiring more QSs, okay, right? So eventually technology, I am a believer that the technology eventually will change the business model in such a way that more people will be involved in programming, and you know, I cannot say now, but technology eventually will hire those people who got laid off, if and only if those people work on themselves and then train and adapt and be dynamic, flexible to learn new things that are coming into the market. You cannot say that, okay, I got laid off and then I'm waiting for technology again to employ. No, you have to work, you have to learn, you have to unlearn and relearn. Yeah.
Yeah. You put it like, you know, it wouldn't be said better. And we at Society of Engineers, we're always happy to provide training courses. If you have any suggestion or you want this skill, please email us and we will be happy to provide it to you and to anyone who is interested, to our engineering community. Okay, so we have another question from Samad. He says that apart from COVID-19, I think the Middle East market, or generally the world, sometimes we're affected by political situations, economic situations, climate change, unexpected situations. So how do we include such a kind of vital factors in our strategic plan and in future foresights and scenarios? How do we put them?
Okay, good question. Okay, look at UAE. We're living in a region that is politically tense, okay? But here UAE is building, is progressing, is advancing. We have all these beautiful things are happening in UAE. In Saudi, we have the NEOM, we have the Red Sea project. So yes, geopolitical situations affect us, but shall we take it and say, okay, no, we cannot do anything, we have to no, we have to continue what we have. However, putting this into our thinking that this might happen, okay? But we cannot say that because we have political situation, we will not do anything about it. No, we have to believe in the political system in the country we are living in. We have to trust them, and we have to prepare ourselves that if something beyond our control, beyond the control of the thing happen, we are prepared to again adapt and learn. Now, wars and these things, personally, I'm not the right person to predict or to put scenarios on that. But of course, it is in the mind of every CEO or people who manage companies, it's in their heads for sure, but it's there.
Okay, so I think this also answers, someone asked about how to include the pandemics in our forecasting and preparation. So this answers it as well.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because it's part of the environmental study that we make. Health is part of it. So
Yeah.
now, although many years ago, many people warned about pandemic, but few companies actually put it in their plan. But now
Yeah.
it will become part of every company's plan that we might have a pandemic of any sort in the future.
True. Okay, we have a question from Abdurrahman Al-Hosani. He says, how you see the adaptation of strategic management in UAE or the Arab world compared to the globe?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
And how is, okay, we'll go then to first answer this and then we'll go to the second part.
Okay, this is what I mentioned when I was doing the analysis of the construction companies in the UAE. I noticed that the companies that have Eastern culture I mean by us, the GCC, the Arab GCC, those companies don't have a proper strategic management process. If they do have it, they don't apply it as it should be because of the culture, I believe. I'm not saying that they are less successful than others, by all means, no. But they are more prone to be skeptic about strategy because they think, why to plan when the planning will change? They're more skeptic into adopting strategic management, but it is vital. It's extremely important. As you said, plan is nothing, planning is everything. So the companies, the Eastern culture companies, unfortunately, they don't have the process that Western-based companies have it, okay? This is what I've seen, and I've seen that also not only in the companies that I have interviewed and other Eastern companies as well. But please don't quote me for that, because in order to have more information about that specific thing, we need to have more interviews with other companies that are Eastern based, and then we can see if this claim is true or not. The other question, can management as efficient as private sector? Strategy making process in governments is different than in private sector, and I'm not proficient in that. Okay, I will not be able to answer that. But what I can say that definitely they do adapt, or they do have strategies, and there are specific skills that is required for strategies within the government institutes.
True. I think, as you said, you cannot compare two structures, the private and the governmental strategies and how they plan the things together. Okay, so we have Mr. Amr Nabil. He says, what is your forecast post-COVID-19 for the UAE construction market in general for 2020 and 2022? And then we have also Expo in the middle, so.
Yeah, 2020 is gone. We know that.
Yeah.
Cancelled.
Yeah.
I've discussed this thing with many people, and most of them are saying that nothing much will happen before mid of 2021. Okay, so we'll have the Expo mid 2021, and then we'll wait and see, and then it will pick up again in end of 2021. Okay. Again, I don't do forecast. I don't like forecast. What I do, I analyze based on foresight methodology. I put the events in front of me, and we draw scenarios of the future, and we see how we can adapt to those scenarios. Okay. For me, forecast is something that I avoid saying. But yeah, based on my discussion with people, nothing will happen this year and next year. Again, depending on the oil prices, that we have seen some recovery in the last few days in oil prices. But again, companies have to recover all the losses that happened. So again, it is strategies that happen within the governments. but also we have to look not only at the governments, what the developers think about that, how the developers will react to that. Do they still have the confidence to go and continue what they are doing, and or even worse, put down new projects to develop? We'll wait and see. It's now we are living in fog. Whoever gives you forecasts or views of the future, take them with cautious, because we don't know.
Yeah, true. As engineers, we love data. We have to use the data based on our thesis or research. There need to be based on data, no forecasts. We're not really experts in forecasts. I do agree with that. Okay, so we have a question from Aluna. It says, what, in your opinion, are the opportunities that were revealed during the pandemic for the UAE construction industries, or the strategies? What are the opportunities?
Technology. Now, there is a joke, everybody is mentioning this joke right now, that who did the digital transformation in your company? Is it CEO, is it CFO, or CDO, or the coronavirus? No, yes, coronavirus is doing so many changes in our industry. And although change has always been there, since thousands of years, change has always been there. But now with the COVID-19, the change to adopt to technologies is being accelerated. Now, we have those who are very skeptic in adopting technology. Now they are seeking, they want to adopt it. Yes, so there is a bit of good news here, that the UAE construction industry will have more technology embedded in it. Okay, not only the UAE construction industry, the global construction industry will have more technologies in it. So the opportunity is technology. Go and start learning BIM, lean construction, system engineering, system thinking, because in the future, in 15, 20 years, you might have to build a building or a highway or a bridge, putting systems together. So you have to think about system engineering rather than construction engineering. You have to put systems together. Yeah. So now we are in a good starting point to start adopting new ways of construction engineering, but it will not happen now. It won't happen in 1, 2, or 3 years. It will take a long time. And some people even are skeptic to do it in 2030, but we have to prepare ourselves to unlearn and learn. Yes, so there's an opportunity to jump into new things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that, these opportunities, if you grasp them now, it would be beneficial for you for the future, especially as you said, technology. Now, they wouldn't see much change in the construction industry, but after 5 or 10 years, I think majorly the construction industry will see this change. So a good advice, technology, we need all of us to, run with the technology, or else we'll be left behind. So we have a question from Eddie. First, Eddie, I would like to thank you, and please do share your article that you're reading about pragmatic sustainability in the chat. I think a lot of us would benefit from reading your article. His question is, do you think that decision makers should integrate a pragmatic approach in their process to turn issues like COVID-19 situation or the environmental issues into competitive advantage? And how can they do that?
Yes. Hi, Eddie. Eddie is my nephew, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. Very good question, Eddie. Yeah, this is what we were saying before, that we need to have a learning organization. Okay. Once you have a learning organization, and once you have a dynamic, adaptable organization, by product, you will have a pragmatic approach to handle obstacles or problems, because you will be basing your decisions on studied or prepared thoughts. Okay, you don't just, okay, I'm hit with COVID, let's see what we can do, we are lost all over the place, and we start bringing things that are not pragmatic. Okay, but to be pragmatic, we have to be informed, we have to be able to learn, we have to be adaptable, we have to be dynamic and flexible, and thus we can be sustainable and yeah, we can be sustainable in what we do, and this of course will provide us competitive advantage. It's about evolution. Who for millions of years, who did evolve? Those who could be flexible and pragmatic around in their surroundings and their environment. Those are the ones who survived. Those were the ones who had competitive advantage against others or against other factors.
Thank you. Question from LD. She says strategic management is a long-term planning. So with the current circumstances, external factors, and the political situation, what is the efficient time or duration we can set forth our strategic goals? I think you mentioned three years, 1 year.
No.
Yeah.
We have, as you said, we had an image when we're talking about foresight. We have administration, we have strategy, and we have foresight. Now, in terms of strategy, the common practice now for engineering and construction, I'm not talking about other industries, because other industries, they have different framework or different view of strategy. For engineering and construction, currently they have up to 3 years strategic plan. But this 3 years, it's not like they put the strategy now and then they go and leave it untouched for 3 years. Every year they have to change it. And when something like COVID or when something big happens, they cannot wait for 1 year. They have to immediately stop, pull out their strategy and see what they can change to adapt to these new circumstances. Okay, so it is normally from 3 years. They review it every 1 year, and if there is a situation happening, they review it when the situation happens.
Thank you. We have a question that says, what do you think about the future of project management firms in the current market situation?
Where is this question, if I may?
It's an anonymous attendee. He says, what is the future of the project management firms?
What do you mean by project management firm? Is it, well, project management firm means different thing, different people. If you can explain what project management, because for example, a consultant can also be a project manager, and the contractor is doing project management. The project management firm is the representative of the client only. So we need to know what he means by project management firm. But what I can say that project management will always stay within construction. Well, always. For the way construction is happening right now, project management will always stay here. Okay, but how we do project management is different, and I'm more towards having a tailored and adaptable project management for a specific company, for specific projects, for specific size. Because now, if you go and look at how construction and engineering do project management, they take one project management fits all. But imagine you have a highway that is 100 kilometers, and you have a high-rise building of 50 stories, okay? Do you think that the same project management tools, processes, frameworks, methodologies can be used for 2 projects? No, okay? So what I advocate for is a project management that talks, first of all, to the culture of the company, that talks to its projects types, to the project size, and sometimes even to the client. If you have a special clients for each client, you might have a project management methodologies fit for this client. I'm not saying that the entire project management will be different, but we have the big project management umbrella, and then we start taking parts of it that fit the project type, size, duration, client, culture. And to put all these, to put the framework of the project management, you have to talk to the culture of the company, and then you change it based on, or you adapt it, tailor it. Word is tailoring, tailored to the projects that you're involved in.
Okay, so we're having similar questions. So because of the time, I'll take this final question. The final question from Ahsan. He's asking, this pandemic is still grappling with solutions that are yet to come. So there's a lot of unknowns. How can you have solutions for unknowns? You can only forecast and hope for the best in such scenarios. How we can build confidence with positivity in this case?
Excellent. I like this question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice.
Okay, let me read again if it's possible. Where was it?
Okay, wait. I removed it. This pandemic, he's saying, we're still, searching for the solutions, and they're yet to come, the solutions for this there's a lot of unknowns. So how can you have a solution for an unknown? Okay, and how you can only forecast and hope for the best in such scenarios. So how can we build confidence with positivity in this case?
Now, this was the last overhead action that we talked about, which is foresight.
Yeah.
We don't forecast. We don't like, personally, I don't like to forecast. Forecast is very dangerous and rarely it happens. And whenever it happens, not because the forecaster is smart or he knows, because by chance, this is my belief. Except if we are doing forecasting using a deterministic model for deterministic data. You know, we're talking about, we are going a bit academic. If we are talking about deterministic model with accurate deterministic data, yes, you can predict from here to 2,000 years. But we are living in VUCA world, in an uncertain world, in an ambiguous world, in complex world. So you cannot just simply predict, because there is no model that can handle all this complexity. And your data is not 100% accurate, where you can put in a model and gives you a accurate result. It's stochastic model, okay? And with quote of stochastic model, we have errors, we have uncertainties. So forecasting is dangerous. So what we do to cater for the unknown, and again, it's called unknown. It's called unknown. We don't know what the unknown is, but what we can do is we can build an organization, we can build a team that is adaptable for change. It's flexible. How to do that? By creating this environment of learning, this environment of thinking, this environment of innovation, of entrepreneurship. We build capacity for future thinking. We assist employees to imagine different futures, to be ready for anything that might come. And the unknown might be one of those, but you don't know, or it might be something out of the blue. But because we are learning organization, we are adaptable, flexible. We can take this unknown that strike us, okay, and either turn it around, or the strike will be less hurting because we are ready for whatever it comes. Okay, I'm not talking about alien invasion. Okay, I'm not talking about something preposterous. I'm talking about something that can happen. For example, COVID-19 or the pandemic. People always mentioned it since since 19th century or 20th century. People mentioned that at one day we have to cater or we have to manage a epidemic. 100 years ago, we had the Spanish flu, okay? And since then, people always mention 400 years, we had the black plague. So what could happen in the future? Wars, pandemics, climate change. We have to think about these things. And once we think about them, mentally and subconsciously, we start preparing for them. Okay, but if you tell me alien invasion, sorry, I cannot help there. Yeah, but if you think about it, the unknowns that are happening are things that certain people talked about before. Many people are talking about now black swan, black elephant, black jellyfish. So the black swan that many people think that it is a black swan right now, personally, I think it's black elephant because many people talk about it. Some other people think it's a combination of these because it depends. For me, it was a black elephant. For someone, it was a black swan. So it's a collection of these black things. So yes, the unknown is there. We cannot know it, but we can prepare ourselves to cater for these unknowns by learning, adapting, being flexible.
Well, so, I mean, thank you for these tips and for the strategies and for all of this. I think you have said that many times that the technology, we need to work on how we can use and capture the opportunity of technology. So I think we're going to wrap this session. Do you have any final comments? I think you have said some good points and notes. So I was wondering, Dr. Fadi, do you have any final remarks before we wrap up? Anything you want to add something?
We have to be patient. We are in rough times. I don't want to look like the someone is preaching around. On myself, and also like myself, my colleagues, many people are in dire situation right now. So we have to be careful. We have to take care of our families. We have to take care of our finances. We have to invest our times in learning. Again, learning, in reading. Reading. What strikes me that very few construction professionals, be it construction manager, project management manager, read. I've come across project managers who haven't read the contract of their project. So read, and read, learn, unlearn, and then learn. Adapt yourselves for the unknown. Be flexible. So this is the only thing I can say. And take care of your financials. Have your cash flow ready, and be ready for the future. To be ready, you have to jump up and see what comes there, and know it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was really a wonderful presentation, and you gave us a lot of insights and information, and we got to understand more of the thinking of the strategic and how we can think of with strategies and managing our companies and engineering, or generally the business firms. So thank you very much for this, and thank you for thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure, and we're really happy to have you. And for all the attendees, thank you very much. We really appreciate you being here and taking the time, and hope you enjoyed today's session. I just have one last announcement before we leave. Next week on Monday, 22nd of June, we have a really special free webinar. It's going to be in Arabic, but he's a really special guest. So if you can, do not miss it out. We'll be sending and broadcasting everything in our social media. It's about فن الابتكار, فن التفكير الإبداعي والابتكار. And our guest is Dr. Abdul Latif, and he's really good. So we hope you can join us next week. And thank you, Dr. Fadi, again. We really appreciate this presentation. And thank you all for attendees. Hope to see you next week. Have a lovely evening, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.